In the heart of Forsaken, a long-abandoned town swallowed by darkness and regret, a quiet unease hung in the air. Rumors passed through the few townsfolk left. Whispers of a cult known as Spawnismo, dark rituals conducted under the cover of night, reaching beyond the veil of reality. They spoke in hushed tones of visions that clung to the edges of sanity, matching the unsettling legends surrounding the Forsaken town. Our story begins with a man named Marcus, who believed himself to be a rationalist, dismissing the supernatural as mere fiction. He stumbled upon Forsaken while researching legendary urban myths for his podcast. The town exuded an eerie stillness, a grayness that seemed to leach color and warmth from the world around it. Broken windows stared blankly from dilapidated buildings, and the wind wove through the skeletal trees, creating a mournful song that sent shivers down his spine. Determined to uncover the truth, Marcus ventured into the crumbling remnants of an old church, the supposed epicenter of the Spawnismo cult. Dust motes swirled in the beam of his flashlight as he made his way inside. The air was thick with the scent of mildew, and a creeping chill gnawed at his bones. As he examined the altar, adorned with strange symbols and forgotten offerings, he felt a lingering gaze upon him, but when he turned, nothing but shadows greeted him. Driven by an insatiable curiosity, Marcus delved deeper into his investigation, piecing together fragments of diaries and notes left behind by the cult's followers. They spoke of awakening something dormant, a malevolent entity feeding off the desperation and fears of the town's past. Each word drew him deeper into a labyrinth of insanity, pushing the boundaries of his skepticism. What unsettled him most was the mention of the eye. It was said to appear in reflections, observing its prey, whispering dark truths that clawed at the mind. Marcus laughed it off, chalking it up to the paranoia of those who came before him. But as night fell in Forsaken, the atmosphere shifted. An electrifying tension crackled in the air, and reality itself seemed to warp. He returned to the church under the cover of darkness, driven by a compulsion he could not understand. The stark moonlight illuminated the symbols on the walls, and they pulsated with an unnatural glow. Marcus felt the oppressive weight of unseen eyes watching him, scrutinizing him. He stood before the altar, a sudden dread swelling in his chest, suffocating and raw. In that moment, he caught his reflection in a shard of broken glass lying among the debris. But it wasn't just his image staring back. The reflection morphed, twisting into a grotesque version of himself, eyes gleaming with malice, a mocking grin that was not his own. Panic surged through him, and he stumbled backward, stumbling into the shadows that enveloped the corners of the church. He now felt the reality of the cult's words. The eye was indeed real, thriving on fear and doubt. It was the embodiment of the town's darkest secrets, a conduit for the sins of those who had worshipped in this very place. As despair washed over him, he realized the truth. Forsaken wasn't a mere ghost town, it was alive, pulsating with a malevolence that refused to die. Marcus tried to escape, racing towards the door, but it slammed shut, seemingly of its own accord. He pounded against it, heart racing, panic clawing at the edges of his mind. In his desperate struggle, he felt the presence of the eye descend upon him, a suffocating darkness closing in, whispering his deepest fears back to him, each word a silken thread weaving him into its tapestry of horror. In that chilling stillness, Marcus understood that he had unwittingly become part of Spawnismo, his existence a sacrifice to echo through the Forsaken halls. The cult was not gone. It thrived within the haunted memories of Forsaken, drawing new souls into its despair. As dawn approached, a new podcast episode uploaded, The Secrets of Forsaken. Listeners tuned in eagerly, unaware that the voice recounting the tale was not entirely their own. The hollow laughter echoed from the depths of the town, promising that Forsaken would never be truly alone again. The eye remained vigilant, waiting for its next reflection to emerge from the darkness. As the sun rose over Forsaken, painting the sky in ghastly hues of crimson and orange, Marcus felt the gunmetal weight of despair settle upon him like a shroud. He was no longer just an outside observer. He was tethered to the very essence of this wretched place, a conduit through which the whispers of the past coursed like a poisoned river. With each breath, the town seeped deeper into him, entwining its darkness with his thoughts. The laughter of the cultists rang in his ears, a sinister melody that echoed the ricochet of his own madness. He tried to shake off the despair, to recall the life he'd left behind, the sunlit streets of a city filled with noise, laughter, and reality. But those memories felt distant now, fading like an old photograph left too long in the light. In their place, the alluring call of Forsaken tightened its grip, promising knowledge beyond comprehension if he succumbed. Marcus's thoughts spiraled toward the shards of glass he had glimpsed earlier, each fragment a warped window into his soul and the soul of this town. He closed his eyes and recalled the rituals, the flickering candlelight, the incantations murmured under breath, the thrumming heartbeat of wood and stone. The evil they had summoned was not merely another being, but a reflection of their own inner turmoil. Was this truly madness? Or was reality being revealed, raw and unrelenting? Then came the voices, not loud or insistent, but soft and seductive. They whispered twisted truths, tugging at the edges of his sanity. "We will weave the past into the present," they cooed, "and awaken the dormant eye." Each syllable felt like a caress and an accusation, drawing him deeper until he found himself responding, not in words but in a willingness to listen, to understand. Suddenly, the altar erupted in a violent burst of energy, illuminating the church with a harsh light that drove the shadows screaming into the corners. Darkness clung stubbornly to the edges of Marcus's vision as he approached the altar again, compelled by an unseen force. The symbols on the stone grew animated, alive with pulsing energy that mirrored the frantic beat of his heart. He reached out, trembling fingers grazing the rough surface as an unseen hand pressed against his back, urging him forward. His reflection stared back with a gleaming intensity, its features twisted into a grotesque mimicry that was both repulsive and strangely familiar. This was not just a reflection. It was an invitation, a moment calling him to take the final step into the abyss and embrace the allure of the dark. With a resolute breath, Marcus plunged into the altar. Feeling the world fracture around him, the pain that ripped through him was unlike any physical agony. It was a disintegration of self, a tearing apart of his very essence. Visions swam around him, vivid and chaotic, a montage of the town's history, each horrific event replaying in fevered silence. He saw the cultists, bloodied and chanting, the innocent, terrified and caught in a web of despair. The eye, always watching, feeding off their tumultuous emotions. When he emerged from the vision, he was no longer just Marcus. He felt the collective cries of Forsaken swirling inside him, intertwining with his own consciousness, a cacophony of anguish and rage that pulsed through every vein. He could see the glimmers of the dark ritual suspended in the air like a miasma, ready to ensnare anyone fool enough to step inside it. He turned back to the altar, filled with a new purpose. The eye had awoken, and it sought fresh eyes to feast upon, eyes that would see the own darkness mirrored back, eyes that would become part of the congregation. Forsaken needed a herald, a voice to spread its insidious reach, and Marcus was ready to answer that call. As the final remnants of his former self slipped away, he opened his mouth, no longer the host, but the vessel of Forsaken's horror. "Join us," he intoned in a voice that twisted and writhed, echoing with ancient chants. Join us in the darkness, share in our fears, and together we shall see." His laughter, now not his own, rang through the hollowed halls, mingling with the whispers of a town reborn. Outside, people still lived their mundane lives, unaware that a new chapter was unfolding, one that would soon bleed into their existence. The podcast surged in popularity as listeners grew intoxicated with his tales, their curiosity crackling with the electricity of ancient dread. In the heart of their screens, the eye continued to watch, waiting patiently for its next meal. Forsaken lived through the fear of those who had yet to stumble upon its secrets, and Marcus, its new prophet, sipped greedily from the well of human desire and dread, a reflection of darkness made manifest. The town was alive, and it would thrive as long as someone was willing to listen. And far above, the eye in the sky kept turning, keeping watch, forever vigilant for the next soul who might dare look into the abyss.